Welcome back to the 9 p.m. edition of the Urban Debate on Mirror Now. I'm Hina Gambhir. Tonight, we are going to focus on a key bill that was passed in Maharashtra Assembly today, the Shakti Amendment Bill. Now, here's what the bill contains. Death penalty for rape and gang rape, time limit of 30 days to complete the probe. In fact, threatening women on social media, a crime, social media giants to share data for probe penalties for false complaints for a period of 3 years, 10 lakh rupees as compensation to acid attack survivors. So this actually proposes some very stringent punishments for crime against women, children and acid attack victims as well. Now, similar bills, viewers, have been passed in various states that claim to protect women and look after women's safety. But unfortunately, incidents of rape, acid attacks still continue across the country. In Bengaluru, an incident of a protector turning a predator was reported. In 2020, Maharashtra saw a jump of 14% in crime rate as against 2019. The data from the State Crime Investigation Department has revealed. Now, as per an Indian Express report, crime against women saw a drop as compared to 2019. The 2019 data from the National Crime Records Bureau has revealed that Maharashtra is second on the list with 32.3 lakh cases of crimes registered in the country. So tonight, on the Urban Debate, I want to ask, do such kind of bills really bring any change on the ground, or there's much more that needs to be done for the country to become a safe place for women and children? That's our big debate at 9 o'clock on Urban Debate, and we will be going across to my guest joining us live this evening. We have Lalita Kumar Mangalam, former chairperson of the NCW. We have Kasturi Shankar, who is an actress as well as an activist. We have Flavia Agnes, women's rights lawyer, joining us on the broadcast. We're also joined by Saira Shah Halim, social activist. Good evening to all of you. Thank you very much for joining us here on Mirror Now this evening. Ms. Lalita Kumar Mangalam, I want to begin the discussion with you. A very, very important bill was passed unanimously in Maharashtra Assembly today. Flavia, okay, let's begin with you. In fact, the Home Minister of Maharashtra presented the bill today. Opposition supported the law. What will you, say about this kind of a bill that has been cleared in the Assembly? I want to understand from you, do these really help on the ground?
You are asking me? Hello?
Yes.
You're asking me?
Yes, ma'am. I'm asking you. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't think passing laws actually empowers women. This is just a way of showing the people that government is concerned. But actually, when we want to empower women, we have to look at development. We cannot look at a crime and increase punishment as a deterrent, but that has never worked at all. If you see from last 30 years, we have been asking for more stringent punishment, but the crimes have increased exponentially, actually. So that is the ground reality. So today what we don't have, we do not have a viable victim support program. Victims are going to court and there is no conviction there. The accused are acquitted, and the woman is blamed that it's a false case. She has brought in she's a liar. She has brought in this false case to implicate this accused, etc. So that is the reason most women do not want to go to the police station. What you see in the NCRB report is only the tip of the iceberg. What happens on the ground, which hundreds of cases go unreported, is never mentioned. So now the Maharashtra government, the Shakti bill, was going to be presented to the Assembly some time ago, about at least 2 or 3 years ago, and before the lockdown. And at that time, a lot of women's groups made a representation asking the government not to pass this law. And there was a select committee, there were depositions made before this committee, etc. including our own organization. But now the government has brought the bill in again with some small changes. But I don't have much faith in such a measure. Similarly, I don't support this central government move to increase the marriage age to 21, because again, that will criminalize a lot of backward, vulnerable sections of the people. So what we need is development over there as well. So overall, our emphasis should be on development and not penalize statutes.
Okay, it's an important point that you're making. Of course, these kind of laws in the past have not really changed much for women on the ground. But talking about this, new bill that was unanimously passed in the assembly in Maharashtra today, I want to discuss with you some interesting points, because these are slightly different from what we have seen in the past. For example, the original bill that was there, it did not have any kind of a provision for filing anticipatory bail plea in case of a false complaint or if a person is harassed deliberately. So that's something new, because we've seen many such cases as well. Earlier only men could be punished. Now men, women as well as transgenders could be punished. That's what is mentioned here. There is an extension of 30 days that will be given if the probe is not finished. Earlier it was only 7 days. So do you think attempts are being made to actually ensure that, one, there are more stringent laws in place that act as deterrent, and eventually the situation will start improving? Do you see any hope?
You asking me? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of changes in law, statutory reforms again and again, and we've been our organization Majlis actively follows up the cases of rape victims, of survivors, and we followed them up to the court during the trial, right from the FIR stage. So now here, what is revealed here is the entire lack of support system. Yeah, this anticipated bail is a provision that is provided here. Maybe that is needed, and like if a person is innocent, we don't want that person to be incarcerated, etc. But at the same time, looking at the law and looking at the safety of the victim, we need to have a restraint on anticipated bail provisions as well as bail provisions, because the victim is not a party and she doesn't know what's happening in a case. There's nobody to guide her or advise her. And after a case is filed, after a few days, she sees the accused out on bail and flaunting his freedom, and that causes a lot of mental agony to the woman. She's not a part of the process. She doesn't know where it happened, how it happened. So there is nobody in the system to advise her, to guide her. So what is needed, according to me, when a new law is passed, is to have a very strong measure of victim support. And that is missing. That's totally missing. And that's what we had asked for, that this law should have incorporate these measures. But I don't see that happening. Without that, your empowerment mission, it will fail. It will have no impact on the ground at all.
Okay. Okay, victim support is missing, and that's something that you believe should also be a part of a bill like this when we are talking about stringent punishments to stop crimes against women as well as children in the country. Stay with us, ma'am. We have Ms. Lalita Kumar Mangalam, former chairperson NCW, now also joining us on the broadcast. Ma'am, good evening. Thank you for speaking with us here on Mirror Now. We are trying to understand, like unanimously, this Shakti bill, was passed in Maharashtra Assembly today. It talks about stringent punishment for crimes against women and children. A lot of changes have been made as well, which were not there in the original bill. Like I was telling her earlier, that in case of filing false cases or providing false information, earlier the provision was simple imprisonment to 1 year and a fine, which was not specified. The original bill did not have provision for filing anticipatory bail plea in case of false complaints. The committee has decided to drop that recommendation. Now one would be able to file or pre-arrest bail plea in such cases. So these kind of changes have come in. The government believes this will make it more stringent. What is your opinion? Do these help in changing the situation for women on the ground?
First of all, Ina, thank you for having me on the show. Secondly, while I think the bill was passed in all good faith, it seems as if most of the people in the Maharashtra Assembly do not understand actually the problems on the ground. I agree partly, in part with the lady who spoke before me, where she said this whole thing about bail applications being filed beforehand can be hugely misused. It is true that in India, sexual assault, including rape, etc., is hardly ever reported. Over 90% of cases still go unreported because most rape occurs within the circle of known people that you know, close people. I mean, people you know closely. But that aside, the fact also remains that, for example, one part of the bill which I thought could help is where they say that IT service providers and social media service providers have to provide the proof within a particular period of time to the police if they ask for it. But the other big fact, which is largely ignored across the table, and this is not just about Maharashtra, is the fact that we sorely need police and judicial sector reforms. We have millions of cases pending in the Indian courts, and despite the fast-track court system that was set up after the unfortunate Empire case, we still, even for her, like I say, it took 7 years for her parents to get justice for that poor child. And we have too many cases, I think, uncounted for which are to do with sexual assault and rape and acid, etc., acid victims, etc., which are still lying for want of evidence, for want of many other reasons. The third point also is that while passing a law is very good, I'm not criticizing the Assembly for passing a law, whether unanimously or not, because that's politics. I don't want to get into that. But the point is that the law has to be backed by implementation. A law is only as good as it is implemented. And perhaps that is where this law was passed, perhaps in too much of a hurry, or perhaps without sufficient consultation with all the groups that are concerned, not just NGOs and activists, but also victims, etc., and the police and the judiciary. Because what happens is that police are not really trained to be amicable towards or even empathetic towards victims of such abuse. And that creates a huge problem for the victims. It's very difficult for families to, or for an individual who has been through this trauma already, to face a not very empathetic person who's helping you supposedly collect evidence. Unfortunately, data also shows that merely making the penalties more stringent doesn't always help in bringing crime down. And it has to be, as I said before, it has to be backed by
not even something like death penalty for rape and gang rape? Not even something like death penalty for rape and gang rape? Do you think even that can't act as a deterrent?
No. Data has shown, data in this case is pretty ambivalent. In some cases, it is said that yes, it does act as a deterrent. In some cases, a lot of people say that this is why increasingly they are murdering the victims of especially gang rape. Victims are being murdered so that no proof is left. For example, that poor doctor, that child in Hyderabad that happened last year. This is also why many people say that
yes.
The sort of encounter killing that is sometimes the police are accused of, I don't know how far that's true or not, accused of are in a way a good thing, because these guys, these rapists, the assaulters, are worse than, I don't know, to call them an animal is to insult animals, I think. But the point is that just one law is not going to help us improve the situation. Yes, it may be a correct step forward.
Okay.
But I think every law any government passes of any party, state, center, whatever, needs to also have in it a clause that says that the police and the judiciary will also be duly empowered to see that this case reaches, a timely and what's the word? And brings justice to the victim. Because after 5 years, after 6 years, after 10 years, there are cases languishing. What sort of justice is a victim going to get? She's living every day, that's a living hell, which is worse than sometimes getting raped physically. I mean, I don't mean to say it very loosely or callously, and I beg your pardon if that's how it comes across. But the fact is that our police and judicial systems need an enormous amount of reform to be able to really address the issue of punishment to people who throw acid, who rape, who assault, etc. And to compare the data of the last 2 years is really
so the intention may be right.
You know, hardly anybody went
yes. Absolutely. So the intention may be right, but there's much more that needs to be done. That's your point of view. We have Saira Shah Halim, social activist, also now joining us on the broadcast. Saira Shah Halim, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Mirror Now. You know, we are trying to understand, as Maharashtra Assembly today passed unanimously, Shakti Bill and amendments were there as well. The new draft had much more, which was not there in the original bill. There's death penalty for rape and gang rape. Time limit is there for 30 days to complete the probe. In fact, penalties for false complaints are also there for a period of 3 years, 10 lakh compensation to acid attack survivors. These kind of details are there. Do you think these kind of measures can actually help improve situation for women on the ground?
See, the first challenge is that will these steps act as a deterrent to future offenders or not? So yes, there was a huge gap as far as announcing the penalty is concerned and the rate of crimes, whether they are increasing or decreasing. And, various surveys have shown us how death penalty needn't be a deterrent. But here, we are talking about acid victim, acid attack. We're talking about rapes where the quantum of the sentence increases. So now, for example, acid attack perpetrators, it's right now 10 years. And now it is going to move to a minimum of 15 years, which can be extendable, or it can increase even to a life imprisonment. So offenders would be wary and they would definitely take a step back before they think of committing such atrocities. So now you look at the expenditure of plastic surgery, and the face reconstruction. So this has to be taken care from the penalty that is going to be charged to the accused. So I think it's a wonderful step and we need to applaud this. We should see that, it is laid out properly. The rollout is proper because we start off on a very ambitious note, but the implementation becomes challenging. So right now we need to see that the implementation is in due process. And all the SOPs are carried out, all the due diligences are carried out, and see that this acts as a very strong deterrent to offenders.
Okay, of course, there are many laws there which are there in the country as well. But one which I want to specifically talk about is the Disha Act. And Ms. Flavia, to you first. Do you think that actually changed a lot for Andhra Pradesh? And there are lessons that can be learnt?
I don't have much information about how the Disha Act rolled out. I do not know whether it has acted as a deterrent in Andhra Pradesh where this law was passed. And one needs to really study like what was the impact of this, where the rest of the country did not have, but only our Andhra Pradesh and Telangana had this law, Disha law. So unless we know whether death penalty is a deterrent and people will stop committing the crime because there is the danger of being hanged for that, deterrent as death penalty. But I personally feel that death penalty is very regressive. It's going backward. It's going to the medieval times. And most of the countries in the world have abolished death penalty. Now we are bringing death penalty for more and more offenses. After the case of the 12-year-old, the 8-year-old Asya who was raped and murdered, we brought a new amendment to the POCSO Act granting death penalty to anybody who sexually abused a child under 12 years. So it's not that we don't have, we already had it. Now we are introducing it into for general rapes as well as acid attacks, etc. And how many cases and how many people shall be hanged to act as a deterrent? So it is, I mean, the entire thing will be the poor, the marginalized will be caught and hanged, but not the middle and upper middle class, because they'll have a very good lawyer, very good legal representation in the court, and will be able to come out of the case. This has been our experience, because in order to sustain a death penalty is not easy. From court to court to court, by the time you go up to the Supreme Court, and a death penalty case will definitely reach the Supreme Court, you have so many obstacles there. If the evidence was not recorded correctly, if there are discrepancies in the statement, if the investigation was not done correctly, if the medical examination was not done correctly. So these are all the loopholes that will be there in the trial. So it's not that all the cases will end up with death penalty. In fact, death penalty will result in less convictions than before. This is another experience that people have had. Countries where there is death penalty, the judges are much more cautious to use this provision of death penalty. So I do not believe that a criminal commits crime after studying the law and after examining the punishment that is there. That doesn't happen. That's what we believe it is so. But a person commits a crime irrespective of the law or violating the law. So deterrent value, I do not know. Maybe in the long run, there may be, I'm not sure about it. So I am totally against death penalty. And it is very sad that the government is not doing measures for empowerment of the victims and giving them the kind of support that they need at every stage, and including like the stigma that still prevails for a victim of rape or a survivor of rape. And she doesn't become a survivor just because she's raped, and because we've changed the terminology. But it is a long process for her to go through the rigors of the criminal justice system and come to the end of the trial. And in all that, she's left all by herself. So there is absolutely no support at all for the victim girl. And unless that is built into the law, according to me, whatever provisions you may have in the law and whatever stringent law you may pass, I do not think the ground level, the impact will be that much to act as a deterrent. And it's very sad that state after state is taking on this cue. First the Andhra Pradesh government, now Maharashtra government, and soon other states will follow, or maybe there will be a central legislation on this. And that is, according to me, really a backward measure. Let us examine the ground reality. Let us examine who gets raped, who gets gang raped, where are these women located, where are these children located, and how can we strengthen them, how can we empower them and make them strong so that these cases do not occur. They happen among the most impoverished of the communities. And that is where we need to work on. That should be our focus, and not just have a death penalty clause in the statute. This is what I strongly believe in.
That's a very important point that you're making, ma'am. In fact, something that Ms. Lalita Kumar Mangalam also emphasized on, that, unless we have police and judicial sector reforms, we can't really see change really taking place in the society. We may have laws like this. It was Andhra Pradesh earlier, Maharashtra today, another state could also follow suit. But Saira Shah Halim, it all depends upon the investigators. The investigation is going to drive whether the implementation happens the way the lawmakers want it or not, isn't it?
Absolutely. Now, for example, this committee is also taking cognizance of false reports, and then the quantum of the punishment is increasing even for false complaints. So I think that's wonderful, because here there's so much of misinformation. And I think that needs to be taken into cognizance, the false alarms, the false complaints, And even the onus is also on internet service providers. For example, the purpose of investigation by social media platforms. Today, you can be tuned. Today, you can be fined to a tune of about 25 lakhs. So I think there is going to be a collective ownership, and everybody will be vigilant. And I think right from social media to the mainstream media, to the law enforcement agencies, to ensure that how this is going to be implemented. I think the challenge is not so much in drafting a bill, the challenge is in implementation. So
I just want to add
hopefully
here one point, if you may. This 10 lakh compensation for the
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
We already have it, but it's not being implemented. Victims are not getting that money. They get it. The lucky ones get a token amount of 30,000 at the initial stage, and the rest of it is when the trial is over, supposed to be. And among the cases that we are following, not a single person has got that amount. So now again we are saying 10 lakhs. That is according to me, you are reiterating what is already there in law. But how do we see at what phase of the trial does the victim get that amount? What are the measures there? There is so much of bias.
That's important. That's an important point. Lalita ji also wants to come into the debate. Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to add to what Flavia is saying, that this 10 lakhs or whatever the amount the government may eventually decide on, giving it after the trial, I mean, we don't know how long the trial is going to take. But I agree when she says that simultaneously, victims need to be rehabilitated. The irony in the Nirbhaya case is that that one chap who got away was given money, training, skills, blah, 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 to be rehabilitated. But that poor girl, of course, in her case, she died. But the fact is that many of those who don't die, who do go to court, apart from facing the rigors of the entire court proceedings, the number of years, social approbation and the rest of it, they are not given any sort of alternative livelihood schemes or counseling, or their families are given counseling. It's extraordinarily traumatic for families also, not just the victim. And we are not looking at it holistically enough. This is what I feel, that in the politics of it, we are not looking at the whole scenario holistically. It can't be broken up into bits, that this is good and that is not good. Implementation means that the entire gamut of implementation has to be smooth, quick, and very just. Now, that is not happening. In the case of a victim, what sort of, how long does she have to wait to be able to get on with her life? Some sort of skills development or some sort of encouragement to help her to get over that trauma immediately, as soon as possible, has to be built into the bills, into the law. Otherwise, I don't think it'll ever happen. And there I agree with Flavia that is extraordinarily important. The amount of money is fine. 10 lakhs is not a small amount. But do they get it? Do they get the rehabilitation that they should, that they deserve?
So victim support, as Ms. Flavia had mentioned earlier as well, victim support is something that's probably missing from these kind of laws, these kind of bills that keep coming. I want to take closing comments from each one of you. Let's begin with Ms. Flavia. What can be done? 10 seconds each to all of you. What can be done so that we have victim support as well?
I think this is a very important measure.
Your advice to the lawmakers.
I have been saying it for a long time that we as a private NGO, we are providing it, and we can see the difference in the cases that we have followed up, that the conviction rate really goes up because the child is prepared. The child knows what she's getting into. She make her understand the legal structure, what is cross-examination, what is examination in chief, what is the role of the judge over here, etc. So when that confidence is built up in the victim to depose, she will depose with confidence, and she will be able to withstand the cross-examination. But in most of the other cases, when illiterate school dropout young girls are raped, particularly under cases under POCSO, you see a large number of cases ending in acquittals, and there is a general feeling that women are filing false cases. This case was really not true. So, and she goes through the stigma. We need to operate at that level, strengthening, empowering women. And the penal provision, according to me, is not needed, a death penalty, etc. And we need to look at that very carefully and move forward.
Okay. Saira Shah Halim, closing comments.
So here we need to understand why this bill is being drafted. This is again, to amend the 100 of the IPC, and also to ensure that the atrocities on women are not perpetrated on a daily basis, and to also ensure that this serves as a deterrent. So right now, implementation is key, and hopefully it would be a smooth implementation of the bill.
Okay. Ms. Lalita Kumar Mangalam, what can really be done to ensure there is support for the victim as well? Because the intention seems to be right. It seems to be that, the government is thinking about making it safe for women and children across the country, in Maharashtra as well with this bill. That seems to be the intention. But what can now be also added to it, in your opinion?
I think two things are very important. One, that judicial and police reforms that are necessary to solve crimes quickly, where justice really needs to be delivered fast, that has to be looked at and be made up specifically, detailed out in these bills, even if it's done in every bill, because otherwise there's too many slips between the cup and the lip in these cases. And secondly, the victim rehabilitation, hand-holding, etc., all of that has to be done. Because Flavia is right, victims are very easily intimidated. And thirdly, what I feel is that this whole bail provision cannot just be that everybody can apply for bail under the presumption that it's a false complaint. Because even complaints that are not false, very often because of clever lawyers, wrong inquiries, etc., whether it's medical or the police, other inquiries, can sometimes be thrown out of the court. So it needs to be a much more holistic outlook, where the whole gamut of investigation, courts, preparing and giving the victim and their families hand-holding, etc., is all looked at.
Right. All right. I appreciate all of you for joining us here on this debate. Thank you very much for joining us here on Mirror Now.